Okay. So, all right. So, I'll just share my screen. All right. So, starting off with Selenium with Python. Okay. First of all, this is just the starting class, the first class. So it will be more of an introduction, more of what we are going to do and how we are going to do. Right. So as the name suggests, Selenium with Python. So we'll be first learning Python and then we will be learning Selenium. The whole thing is literally going to take nearly more than 6 weeks, rather. Okay. And in the 6 weeks, we will be touching every aspect. We'll be touching the framework as well. Right. So before I start, do you guys have any questions or something regarding the course, regarding anything? Any questions?
I don't have any
Nope.
questions.
Okay. All right. So along with this training, you have already got the access to the videos, and we are recording the current session, which will also come in your account under the batch recordings section. Fine. So look, generally the first question which generally people ask is that how much time does it take to learn this tool? To learn this tool, just to have a knowledge, I think 6 weeks are more than enough. But if you want to learn it to a level where you can confidently sit in an interview and clear an interview, it nearly takes you around 10 to 12 weeks for that because you have to practice a lot of things. Right. And look, Selenium as a tool is available in different languages. It's available in Java, it's available in Python, JavaScript is also there, and gradually Selenium with Python is picking up. And because Python as a language is picking up in the market, but honestly speaking, I find Selenium with Java to be better. Right. Python is more of a data science language. Okay, if you're working in data science, then it's way better than Java. And most of the projects in the industry have already been implemented in Selenium with Java. But yes, the new ones are coming up on Python. Fine. And if you talk about the comparison, Java is anytime a faster language than Python, but Python has its own charm. Things which take a lot of time in Java, those things can be accomplished very easily in few lines, right, with the help of Python. For example, if you have to read the data from an Excel file, or if you want to read the data from a JSON file, then in Java you have to write very, a lengthy code to do that. But in Python, just in 2 or 3 lines, you're able to achieve the same thing which you do in Java, maybe in 30 lines or 40 lines of code. Okay. That's the thing. Okay, basically, Python offers you richer functions and a richer functionality. Right. Now, the thing is, as far as Selenium is concerned, right, learning Selenium is just not Selenium actually. There are a lot of things which are involved. Right. Look, the basic goal of this whole training is to help you understand and build a framework, which is an end-to-end project. Okay. If some a client comes to you and he tells you that fine, these are my 2000 test cases, and you have to automate these 2000 test cases, right? Then how will you do that? Fine. So generally, you know what, like I am working in automation since a very long time. I have seen quite a lot of projects as well. But generally, the thing is, the client is actually clueless. Okay, he thinks that automation can save his time, it can save his efforts, but he directly comes and tells you that fine, these are say 2000 or 3000 test cases, please go ahead and automate them. Right, but there is a cost involved in this. If it's taking you to test a scenario of say manually, it takes you 5 minutes to do that. Maybe if you want to write a script, it takes you a 2 hours time to write a script which can automate the same test case. So automation is an expensive thing. If a customer is coming and telling you that fine, these are my 2000 test cases, then please automate them, then of course the cost is high for automation. But once the scripts are ready, then certainly you save a lot of time. Fine. Now the thing is, if somebody tells you to automate 2000 test cases, it's not that you just pull up the code and start writing the code. No. Okay, it's something like you have to think about everything, right? First of all, how will you manage your data for 2000 test cases? Maybe you have an Excel file or a JSON file or a text file, right, having the data. Right. How do you manage the data? Then sometimes you want to run selective tests. So, your code should be robust enough that, out of 2000 test cases, you just want to run, say, 500, or you just want to run the smoke test cases, right? So you should be able to selectively run the test cases, right? Sometimes you have to run one test case multiple times with different sets of data, right? Apart from that, you have to think about report generation as well, that you need to generate some kind of HTML report or something, right? So, and at times the client says that please integrate Selenium grid so that we can run the test cases parallelly and save on time. So at times, you know what, when you build a project, you really don't think of Selenium grid and build it. I have seen this in a lot of projects. Okay. And when what happens is when the project is ready, everything is ready, then you realize that it's taking a lot of time to run the scripts on a single machine. Then the client says that go and automate it on grid. Grid is something which helps you to run the test cases parallelly across different machines. Then you realize that fine, we never made this whole thing in a way that it could be easily executed on grid. So that creates a problem. So you have to think about a lot of things, that even if the client today is not asking about running on grid, but tomorrow you might feel the need. And you cannot just change the complete thing overnight and implement grid. That's not possible. Right. And there are a lot of other things like reusability and uh, right. And then you have to integrate Jenkins. Fine. So look, it's what I'm trying to tell you, that it is not just about learning Selenium. Selenium is a tool which can automate browser. Selenium will have commands to click somewhere on the browser, to type on the browser. It can automate your browser. But Selenium has got no commands to manage your data, okay, or to implement the test cases. Okay, you cannot just implement test cases with Selenium. No. Selenium is just a tool which can help you to automate the browser. Okay, so apart from learning Selenium, we have to learn a lot of other things. First of all, we have to learn about Python. We have to learn about file management with Python, that how do you manage different types of files with Python. Okay, then you have to study about PyTest. PyTest is something which will help you to implement test cases. It's basically a unit testing framework, right? And then with the help of PyTest, you write your Selenium code in PyTest, right? So you have to learn about different Selenium commands as well. Okay. And you have to integrate everything together and then build a end-to-end project. So as I always tell people that, look, Selenium is not tough. It's easy, but the only thing is that it is a little, you can say that it's a little vast. Okay, it's got a lot of things which have to be catered about. You have to think about a lot of things when you are building your project with Selenium. Okay, if you go to the official website of Selenium, which is selenium.dev, this is the official website. And you know, first line is primarily it's for automating web applications for testing purpose. Okay, so look, it is primarily a web automation tool. It will help you to automate your browser. Selenium automates browsers. It is not for desktop based automation. And everything in Selenium is inbuilt. Okay, if you go to the download section, see these are the languages in which Selenium is available. And the latest stable version is 4.8. Fine. Now, let me just, you know, in every language it's 4.8. Tell you a little bit about versions of Selenium. Look, it's not necessary to always work with the latest version. Okay, what happened was that, as far as I remember, the version 2.141.56. I need to check it out, but it's just in my memory. This was one of the most stable versions of Selenium. Okay, look, Selenium is an automation tool. It's open source. When 2.0 came in the market, somewhere in 2013, 12, 13, 2.0 was very, very unstable. And it literally didn't work on many things. So gradually they stabilized it. And sorry, it was 3.141.56. Gradually by 2000s, it took nearly 4 or 4.5 years to stabilize this tool. Okay, and then they came with 4 and now it's 4.8. But to be very honest, after this version, there were no new commands. Since past 5 years, I have seen hardly any new command coming up in Selenium. All the commands are old commands, but the versions have improved Selenium internally. Okay, they have improved it, how it works internally, and they have made the commands more efficient and they have removed the defects. Okay, So it really, I see many projects still being worked on Selenium 2.5, 2.6. It really doesn't matter. Okay, in Selenium, higher the version, higher the stability. Okay, that's what I say. And yes, if you look at this Selenium with Python, right, you will see a change log. Look, it's an open source tool. You're not paying any money to anyone. So they come up with every version, and you see, with every version, you can see that what all changes they have done, right? So as I was saying, that it's an open source tool, you are not paying anyone. At times it fails, and you really don't have anyone to contact. Okay, I've seen that, but that era is over now. It's very stable, fine. And this is the API docs. This is the official documentation of Selenium, and we'll be looking a lot in this documentation. Right. Look, today is the first class. It's more of an introduction and more of what we are going to do, how we are going to do. I don't want to just start directly with the coding and all. First, what, how, in which direction we are proceeding and how we are proceeding. That's what I want to tell you. So this documentation is good. It's quite informative. There are different drivers for Selenium. For each browser, there are different drivers. So but they have got some good examples over here as well. Okay. And we are going to run over this documentation, but to understand this documentation, you need to understand the concept of, OOPS, which is object-oriented programming. And I think you must have done OOPS with some other language sometimes. Okay, so the first thing is that we need to learn Python, and we need to learn concepts of object-oriented programming, and how objects are made and all everything. Now, coming over to Python, it's the obviously the backbone, and the more you learn Python, the more easy it is to understand Selenium. But do you guys have a background in Python?
Um,
Do
Not
you have a
much. I started
background in
looking into
Python?
it.
Pardon?
I started looking into it, but not too much. I watched some of the videos that you shared with us when we signed up with you. So the other instructor on your website, I started looking at her videos. So just a little bit I know.
Okay. What about you, Eric? Python, you have a background?
Yes, I've taken a few classes in school, and currently where I work, we use Python a little bit.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, taking a quick dig into Python, obviously, I find it way better than Java, right? First of all, I think both both of you have got PyCharm installed.
Yes, I do.
Okay. What about
Yes,
you, Asif?
Yes, I do.
Okay, then that's great. So you have this PyCharm, and I'll just make a new project. Look, I'm assuming at least you know the basic things, what functions are, what variables are, what loops are, right? So, I have this small library with me, right, which I created in one of the batches, right? And but that was something where people were actually novice to programming, like you have some background. So I had to start off with the very basics of loops and all with them, right? And you must be knowing about print formatting, logical operators. You guys know about those things, right?
Yeah, not an expert by any standard, but yeah, I do have an understanding of those.
Okay. Look,
yeah,
basically
same
what
here.
happened, pardon?
I said same here.
Okay. All right, no problems. So I'll just make a new Python package. We name it as basics. Look, Python, they have simplified stuff. Okay. They give you a lot of space to work around with your uh, code. Okay. So I'll just make a new module, Python module basics. Oh, sorry. Hold on. This thing, or should I? No, I didn't. S- Okay. So in Python, if you have to declare an integer or a string, anything, you don't need to write integer I equals to this and all those stuff. Right, you can directly declare the variables, and it's a formatted language. There are no semicolons or something. You'll always get some warning messages. You have to format the file. Okay, they say that fine. Be very careful with your indentations. Be very careful about the blank spaces and all. Right, and if you want to print something in Python, so you just have a print statement, and if you want to run this module, you can just right click over here and you can simply say run basics, which is the file name, and it'll execute. Right. And if I have to print the variable values, so you can just put braces and print the values over here. But I'll come over to those things. Right, you have to use the word function f over here, right, and then you can print the values as well. Hold on, I'll run this. Right, so f means basically format. Okay, so if I want to print the values of a and b, I can put curly braces and print. Okay, and you see it's printing. Right. If you don't want to use this formatter F, rather in 100% of the cases we use this, right? You can simply print like this, that say print hello str. Okay, okay. I'll tell you about this later on. Hold on. Let me not just confuse you. Hold on. So you have this way you print something. Now you have got different things. Hash means a comment. You do have loops in Python. Okay, you do have statements, if statements and all. Right. So the way we write it in Python is a little different uh, as compared to the way we write it in Java. Right. So in like you can just write over here for right. So range is a function. Okay, range is a function in which the I will move. Right, I will move from say 0 to the range 5 over here. Right, if you move your mouse over this, you'll see the range stop. Returns an object that produces a sequence of integers. Fine, the best part is you will have a very good documentation over here. Fine, so range is a function which is internal and it can take many arguments. Right, around 3 arguments it takes. Hold on, let me just show you first, so that I have a pre-built program from last class. So if you write over here a range 5 and range 2 comma 5, that means go from 2 to 5, and range 1 510, this if you give the third parameter, that is a jump. Okay, so you have got range function available in different flavors in Python. So now this is here where it is a little different than Java. Fine. If I write over here, hold on, let me show you print I, and over here, sorry, you have to put a semicolon in the end in case of Python. Sorry, colon, not semicolon. And when you run this, so you will see 0 to 4, it's printing. But if I give 5 comma 10 over here, and you see, you'll always get a small warning in Python. So you have to format the file to get away with it. If you run it, and you will see that it will run from 5 to 9, jumping by 1. Okay, so this is the start index, and then this becomes the end index, and it runs one less than an index. And if I write 5 to 100 and give the third parameter becomes my jump. And when you run this, so you have this thing. Okay, in the end, we end up doing the same thing in all the languages. Only thing is that the syntax is a little different. Okay, the end product is always the same. All right. Now, as far as Selenium is concerned, if you talk about Selenium, so first of all, we'll have to learn about OOPS. We will have to learn how to create objects with Python and different things, right? And the most important thing is that in Selenium, all commands are inbuilt. If you have learned Selenium with some other language, you must be understanding what I'm telling you. Okay, everything is inbuilt. You you don't have to invent the wheel or something, right? You have everything inbuilt. Each and every command is inbuilt. You just need to understand those commands, that how they are used, and you need to learn how to use those commands in the right way. Okay, if you look at the documentation, right, this is the command to first of all install Selenium, which I already have on my PC. Okay, pip install -u Selenium. So when you install Python, you get pip with you, and you need to just open the PyCharm, and this is the terminal in PyCharm. Okay, in terminal you can paste this command. I don't want to install Selenium again. So it will automatically, go online, download the libraries of Selenium, and it'll install Selenium in your PC. Okay, and I think somebody else has joined in. Right. So okay. Yeah, somebody actually tried to join in. So anyways, so this is the first command. You can simply install Selenium, and there are different drivers which you need to have. I'll talk about, okay, those drivers. And every command like browser is equal to webdriver dot Firefox. This will open your Firefox browser. So all the commands in Selenium are inbuilt. Browser.find element. This will go and find some link, some button, something on the web page. Okay, so everything is inbuilt, but the most important thing is understanding the concept, how inheritance works mm, with Python, how the concept of extending one class to another. Okay, how do you import the features and all? So all those things come under Python, and that's what I'm going over right now. And in the end, the major goal is how to build a framework. Okay, now if you talk about a framework, yes, people do have doubts. Let me just talk about a framework. There are different frameworks, like you have got data driven, you have got keyword, you have BDD, You have page object model. Fine. So, have you seen these frameworks before somewhere, any one of them? Has anybody seen any of the frameworks before? Not implemented, but seen them. Have you ever had a
I've
chance?
seen page object model I've seen before.
Okay.
I've
All right.
seen BDD.
Okay. Look, you know what? These are, concepts, and I would say that it's not so easy, to be very honest. Right. I always advise people to start with data driven. In the online training, I cannot cover all of them, honestly, because these are very vast. Each of them is very vast. I can cover one of them. Okay. In the pre-recorded sessions, we have almost all of them. Right. And, I always advise people as beginners, always go for a data-driven framework. I find this framework to be the most powerful and easy to change, easy to learn as well as change. People have jumped towards page object model, towards BDD, but the practicality is something very different, and very few people understand it, and very few clients understand it. If you want to build framework which is robust and reusable and can be built at a very fast speed, then that is the data driven framework. It takes least effort to build this, and I always advise people to start off with this one. If a client comes to me and he's not knowing about frameworks and he says that fine, go and automate these test cases, I always build a data driven script. I never go for the complex ones, page object model, BDD, and all that stuff, because you know what I have seen in the end, what happens is the output is same. Whether you use BDD, whether you use POM, right? These take more time to implement, but in the end, the output is same, that you go and end up automating 2000 test cases. Okay, but in with data driven, you take less time, and the most important thing is the change management. Sometimes people make so complex frameworks that it really becomes very difficult to change them, because obviously the website will not remain same forever. We cannot build a framework uh, um, which will work with a changed website, right? The website changes with time. So when you have to change the framework, it is an effort. It is an effort bigger than the effort to build it. Okay. So the change management is really easy in this type of framework. Look, these three things: data driven, keyword, and page object model. These three types of frameworks are concepts. Okay. For example, you know what? How do I tell you? There is a concept of car. Okay, the car will have four wheels. The car will have a steering wheel. The car will have seats. Fine. So there's a car which is a concept. But BDD is not a concept. BDD is a tool. It's got its own commands. It's a world in itself. And you use, and BDD is not just meant for Selenium. Okay, you use BDT with Selenium. So you end up learning one more tool over here, which is BDD, and you incorporate the features of BDD with the features of Selenium. Okay, BDD has demand in the market, and I've seen many people who are trying to learn Selenium. They try to learn BDD uh, in the very beginning, and they struggle, because BDD internally is also on a kind of data driven framework only. Okay, So I always advise people that don't try to jump forward, right? Learn data driven and then learn the other frameworks. You will end up, learning fast, okay, at a faster pace. No interview, if you go for an interview, every interviewer knows that it's very tough to find a candidate who knows all the types of frameworks. If the interviewer is genuine, he will understand that fine, it's not possible to get a candidate who has knowledge of all the frameworks. Because if you want to learn all those 4 or 5 types of frameworks, it will take you nearly 1.5 years to master them. Master them, you can learn them in 1 month, but master them means that you're confident enough and you're professional enough to easily work on them. All right. So that's my take on the frameworks, right? So we will learn these frameworks, we'll do everything, and fine. Any questions from anyone? Anything?
So Ashish, is this true that people are getting away from keyword-driven framework? Because I've yet to find some company who's using keyword-driven. I think I hear about the data-driven PAM or BDD, but I hardly ever hear
No,
keyword anymore.
keyword driven creates problems.
Hmm.
Okay, I also feel that because what you do is that you make an Excel file which governs the whole script.
Okay.
Okay, in keyword driven. So basically, keyword driven is an upgrade. You build the data driven framework and you actually end up building keywords in this, and then you in keyword driven you control the data driven framework through an Excel file. So basically this is what a keyword driven framework is, that you build a data driven framework actually, and you control that data driven framework through an Excel file. Now what happens is that with time or looking at the complexity of the test cases, sometimes you have got 2000 test cases, 5000 test cases. So the size of Excel file, it becomes so complicated and it becomes so big that you end up thinking that why am I maintaining this file? It's so tough to maintain. So that's why people are refraining from keyword driven. Okay. And that's why, data driven, I always feel it is the best, right? Okay. So keyword driven is something which is like controlling data driven from an Excel file. Okay. Right. So anybody with any questions, anything, right? Like for example, I'll show you. I'll show you this thing. Like I also give lectures on Selenium with Java. So in Selenium Java, this is the data-driven framework. Okay, so it has got nearly 25 parts. All right, and but when you learn this data-driven and when you later on you go to learning the keyword-driven framework, okay, there are just 3 parts to it. So you actually convert the data-driven into a keyword-driven framework, and you control that uh, whole framework through an Excel file. Okay, so it's better to use data-driven only because the Excel becomes very complicated. All right. Now, um, hold on, just a minute.
So Ashish, when you say data-driven, isn't that also dependent on the Excel file?
In data-driven, you have the data. You can keep the data in an Excel file. You can keep the data in a JSON file these days. JSON is more famous. People prefer using JSON. and everybody is just moving towards JSON only.
Okay.
Okay, right. So now the next thing is how do you go about in object-oriented programming, and how do you work with Selenium? So I told you how to install Selenium, how to just go to the documentation and you will have the pip install -u Selenium and all the dependencies will come up. Right. In Selenium, primarily we automate these browsers with Safari. Selenium is unstable. Okay, I don't prefer using with Safari or Opera because they don't work properly. Firefox, Edge, and Chrome, yes, very nicely done, and they are these three browsers are quite stable. Fine. And you have got different driver classes. So I don't want to go inside them right now. So coming over to oops. Okay. So it's not that we will learn about Python first and then Selenium. In the course, I will be talking about some Python concepts, and then I will tell you how those Python concepts are actually implemented in Selenium. So it is not going to happen like that first 10 classes I am teaching you Python, and then on the 11th class I take up Selenium. No. When I take up OOPS, I'll teach you the concepts of OOPS, and then I'll tell you how these concepts are actually used in Selenium and how we basically open the browsers and all different things. Okay, right. So I think we can start that by tomorrow because I don't want to take a very longer class on the first day. It was just an introduction. Right. So we can start off at regular time. The time I had kept was 8 o'clock, but since only two of you are there, we can start off by 7:45 p.m. Indian time, which is something like in Eastern it is 9:15 p.m. Okay, is it fine? 9:15 a.m. Sorry, your Eastern time.
Okay. 9:15 means would be 8:15 my time. So
Yeah. So
okay. So class will be
it's
from 9:15 to 10:15 Eastern.
yeah, 1 hour. We'll have that
Okay.
one. Okay. So Eric, you're comfortable with that time, right? Okay.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah. So fine. So
What
I
time
don't
zone is
want
Eric
to.
in? Eric, are you in Eastern zone right now?
I'm on West Coast, so that's 6:15 my time.
Oh
Okay.
my.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So that's early morning for you. Okay. So we'll continue with this time, and let's start off with the concepts of OOPS tomorrow. When you log in into your account, on the right side, you will see the batch recording section. In that, the video will come up. Need to set it up. It'll take me some time to set up your batch. So I'll put up the videos over there. Okay? Yeah.
Sounds good.
So
Okay.
yeah. So just one
All
thing,
right.
Ashish, for
Yeah.
my time, 8:15 to 9:15 will work perfectly fine because, like I told you, I have a stand-up meeting every morning at like 9:30. So
Yeah.
so that will work out perfectly fine for me. Even if like our class goes a little bit longer, I'll have to probably log off more like around like
No,
9:30 my
it's
time.
1 hour will be more than enough, I guess.
Okay.
Okay. So right. Okay. Now. Um, we'll see you tomorrow then. Yeah.
Just one last question, Ashish. The code that you're showing from the other sessions, the other class that you taught, you're showing some code. Are you going
Yeah.
to share the code with us, or even the code we are
I'll
writing for
share
this
the
class?
entire code, the code which I make with you. I'll share entirely with you.
And that will be on
Okay.
the site website, or will you be emailing
I'll
it
give
to
you
us?
a link from where you can download that.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Wonderful. So
Thank
see you
you.
guys tomorrow, same time.
See you. Yeah. Sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. All right.
Yep.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Have a good
Thank you.
one.
Bye.
You too. Thanks.
Thanks.